Hello, everyone. Uh, Today, our next meeting of uh, Azure Azure Developer Associate certification meeting. Today, we'll be covering three topics. We will be covering the Microsoft Graph, implementing Azure Key Vault, and also implementing managed identity. First, let into exploring Microsoft Graph. Looks like I'm having some internet issues. Okay, Microsoft Graph. So Microsoft Graph is a gateway to the data and intelligence in Microsoft 365. It provides a unified programming model that we can use to access the tremendous amount of data in Microsoft 365, Windows 10, and enterprise mobility security. So here's the diagram. Using Graph, we can get access to Microsoft's 365 document portals. We can build our own experience. We can get access to Windows 10s and enterprise mobility. So benefit of Microsoft Graph is like using one API, we can get access to all the objects inside the Microsoft Office, and we can do some custom programming. This is a page is talking about using one REST API, we can get email addresses, user information. One very important thing is this Graph Explorer. So this Graph Explorer is very good to find out what are the permissions you need for getting, like if you're trying to get my profile. So what kind of response you would get, and uh, let's see the particular, go to the users. So it's showing this is there are 90 90 users uh, under users. So okay, get my direct reports. You can find out what are the possibilities, what kind of queries you can run using Microsoft Graph, what permissions you would need. So coming back to ours. So how to use Microsoft Graph using in C Sharp. So there is a Microsoft Graph.NET SDK. So we can use a client, Microsoft Graph client. So let me run a demo. So before I can write some C Sharp application, I have to set up the access. So I am creating a resource group so that I can create Microsoft Entra ID. I can set up all the authentication information so that I can retrieve the graph information from Azure SQL. So here I have created the resource group. Under resource group, I'm going to create Microsoft Entra. So I'm trying to find under authentication Microsoft Entra. Mhm. So I'm going to search the marketplace for Entra, Microsoft Entra ID. As we know, it centralized all our access and authentication requirement. So I'm creating, I have to give the organization name, and I have to give some initial domain. I'll keep the same domain, Azure AD B2C. I'm selecting for Entra ID. I'm running demo at twice the speed. So here I'm creating the Entra ID. So once Microsoft Entra ID service is created, so here's my Microsoft Entra ID. I'm opening B2C TNet client. So here is Azure Active Directory B2C. I need to register an application for which I can take out some information. So I'm setting up a application for authorization. So redirect URL, I'll just give some local host under web. Let me register the application with Entra ID. So Entra ID is the access and authentication hub, and I have set up an application here. I need to copy the client ID and tenant ID. As you guys will see, I will be using that afterwards. So I have to create a secret also. I have to go to uh, certificates and secrets. I will just create a secret. I don't want to delete the secret. I just want to copy the ID and value, because once you create the secret and if you don't copy the value, it's very difficult to get the value back. So in API permissions, I have to set up some permissions. So here I can find out all the user related permissions. So I will just give all the permissions related to user so that my C# client can retrieve this. So I'll just give grant admin consent for demo. So here I have done all the setup. I have set up the Entra ID, registered an application, give the permissions, necessary permission for my console application to work. I'll start a new console application. Let me create a new console project. And some default values, .NET 8.0 I'll be using. So I'm creating a console project. So to query the graph related objects, I have to add the references to identity framework. Let me select the identity. So Azure Identity Framework I'm adding. Also, I would need the identity client that I'm adding to my software, my project, and also the graph, Microsoft Graph. So all the necessary framework has been added to my project. Let me copy this. I have already written code somewhere else. Let me copy that code. Let me little bit take out the comments. So here is the code. I am missing just tenant and client ID. Let me get the client ID and tenant ID. So as I showed you before, I have noted on the TNet ID, client ID, and client secret. So this is all the information I need to get the graph objects. So in this demo, I'm just using the user. I'm connecting to my Azure website and just getting the user's information. I'll put a breakpoint and let me run the application. The, let me step over the users. So I passed the tenant ID, and client server, client secret, and here the user. It was able to retrieve a user. Uh, yeah, under value. So it retrieved my name, Vikas Keni. I'm the only user for the app I have created. So that concludes the demo. Uh, so before I go further, Graph, any question? Santosh, Rakesh, you guys have just joined. I was talking about a little bit about Microsoft Graph, and today demo I have set up as twice the speed. Looks like it's going very fast. So, any questions about Microsoft Graph before I go further? Santosh, Rakesh, you guys are mute. I cannot hear you.
Uh, from my side, no, no
Okay,
question.
no. Okay. So, what are the best Microsoft Graph practices are? Use the least privileges. Means whenever the APIs, Graph APIs are trying to get some data from my website, I have to give permission whether this code can access my users, can access my calendar. So that's what you should be using least privilege permissions, and consider the end user and admin experiences, consider multi-tenant applications. So if sometimes the data can be very, very huge. Mhm. uh, you need to use pagination, and be careful if you are using data stored locally, because it may get out of the sync, and it should not violate Microsoft API terms of use. So that concluded our graph. The second is after that, Azure Key Vault. What is Azure Key Vault? So Azure Key Vault as a service supports two type of containers, where vaults and managed hardware security module pools. Vault supports storing software and HSM backed keys, secret and certificate. Managed SM pools only support HSM backed keys. So Azure Key Vault, it's about keeping your secret management, like database connection string. Uh, we don't want other people to know. We need to keep it somewhere secure as a secret. So Azure Vault gives us framework to store those kind of secrets. Key management. A lot of time we are sharing APIs, and there are keys associated with that. And again, Azure Vault, we can store the keys there. Certificate management we can do through Azure Key Vault. What is the benefit of Azure Key Vault? Like as it says, like you are centralizing application secrets. So one place you are putting all the document. One place you are putting all the connection strings, all the secrets, and as you use store securely, you are storing the secrets and keys. You can monitor access and key, like monitor access and use who's accessing, and it simplifies your administration processes. So before, what are your best practices? Uh, to do any operation from Key Vault, you first need to authenticate to it. And when the data is moving from Key Vault to your application, it's using TLS protocol to encrypt your data. So one good thing is definitely development and production QA, you should have separate Key Vault and control. You need to control access to your vault, make sure you have a backup, and you turn on logging alerts and turn on soft delete. So before we go further, let's do a demo of Azure Vault. So I'm creating the Key Vault as a service. We have to create a resource group. Whenever we create some service, we have to create a resource group. So we have to give the name. Let me create the Key Vault. Okay, let's go to our Key Vault. One thing I learned that you have to give the right permissions. So to here, I will be giving the right permission, like you have to assign the role to. So that's I have I think I'm giving the administrator role to myself, so that I can add the key values. So it's because Kenny, I have been added a user, and I have given administrator role to myself. So now, as we can say, we can store key, secrets, certificates. Let's create some secret here. So I'm just calling it database connection. So our secret name is connection. And the value also we are giving is giving some database connection. So we have created our secret. So this our secret is created. So let me see the secret. This is it enables versioning. And here I did our secret value is database connection. So this is we have created Azure Key Vault. We created a secret inside our Key Vault, and as I said, you can store key, secret, certificate in Azure Key Vault. So that concludes our Key Vault demo. Okay, so we go further. Any questions about Azure Key Vault or Graph? Okay, we are good. This as I give the demo. implement managed identities. So like in managed identity, like it's a very challenging to manage identity. So like that's what a common challenge for developer is management of secret credentials, certificates, and key used to secure communication between services. Managed identities eliminate the need for developers to manage these credentials. So there are two type of managed identity. A system assigned managed identity uh, is enabled directly in Azure service instance. A lot of this will not make sense. I'll give you a demo, and it's going to make more sense when I'll show you in the demo. It sounds very complex, but it's very very simple. System assigned managed identity is when you create a resource, and this identity you can create this identity, and all the authentication needs will be taken care by Azure. You can have a user assigned managed identity also, and must be wondering what's the difference between system assigned managed identity and user assigned managed identity. System assigned managed identity is tied to resource, whereas user assigned managed identity is independent. So like it's like I created a virtual machine, I created a use system assigned managed identity. If I delete the virtual machine, uh, the everything will be cleaned up from Microsoft and Microsoft Azure authentication system, which is Entra ID. Whereas in user assigned identity, that won't be deleted. That will still stay, even though you have deleted all the resources for which has been assigned to this user assigned managed identity. So like when to use managed identity. So like if you're building some virtual machines and it needs access to some applications which support Microsoft Azure Active Directory authentication. So like you build some API and you need some access to the database. So you can use this the system managed identity, so that all that authentication framework is hidden to you. You just start rewriting the code. So what we'll do, we'll create a virtual machine and we will create uh, a large database object, a large another big database object database, and we'll give access out to our Azure virtual machine to that. Let me run the demo, and a lot of them will make more sense once I give the demo. Okay. So I'm creating a virtual machine. Giving a name, my favorite demo, today's date, and some number. I'm going to create a Linux machine. So we are creating our virtual machine. And just says download a key. Uh, I can also assign some role. So now I'm going to create a storage. So I'm creating a storage. Am I sharing screens with you guys?
Your screen is not visual.
Oh, okay,
You
okay.
have to
So
click visual.
let me.
It was visible
Yeah,
2 minutes back.
something.
Now
It
it's
just stop sharing 5 minutes before or lot.
no 2 3 minutes before.
Okay, okay. So okay, virtual machine is created, and that this is one way good. That when process went so in identity, all you have to say is system assigned and say on, and system assigned managed identity is created. Is that simple? Just one click, you are all set. System managed identity has been created for you. So I'm adding here role. It was not necessary, but I was giving some permissions to that. So okay, so now what we are doing is we have created our virtual machine. Now we are creating Azure storage. I'm looking for Azure storage. So blob, that keyword was not coming to me. So we'll create storage account which can store blobs. So I'm creating a storage account, giving some name. Okay, so I'm creating. Okay, so storage account is created. So another thing I like I have to give. So okay, I'm trying to go to my virtual machine and trying to connect to blob databases, this or Azure storage. So this will show you that okay how it is taking care of uh, authentication from by my virtual machine. I can reach to Azure because I created system assigned identity. So I will be using command line here. I have to install first Azure CLI on here. So okay, login. Let me try login identity. Azure CLI I have to install on my virtual machine. So I'm going to install on that so that I can run the command to connect to blob from my virtual machine. Okay, Azure CLI is installed. So when I'm trying to reach blob, it's giving some me error that you don't have permissions. So I have to go to Azure storage and give myself give a role, uh, a role like at least Azure blob data owner. I'm going to give that role to myself. So this role I have to assign to myself. So when I select members, so virtual machine, sorry, in this case, already we are giving access to virtual machine. Okay, so I have given access of assigned a role to virtual machine from Azure storage. And now I will be trying to log in into my virtual machine using identity. Is telling the system to use identity. There's a typo. Okay, I'm logged in. Let me copy. And from my virtual machine, now the error is different. Container not found. It's able to recognize it. So it is aware to, is it, it's a, uh, it was able to recognize that there's a blob storage. And let me go a little bit. There are here, what are the steps is like it's telling you what happens underneath. Underneath it is creating everything, client ID, tenant ID, storing itself. All for us, we have to just use a ID, this token ID, and we can uh, get the access. So all the authentication, authorization, it is taken care by the framework. I think that's the beauty of this. We don't have to uh, deal with that. So this already I showed you guys how we can set up a virtual machine, create a system assigned manager entity, and how we can then use other resources like blob storage. Okay, so let me end by streaming from here.
Yes, sir.